round of the Australian Open. The only time he's really made some sort of inroads at Melbourne. He came down early in December. He's done the same thing this time around. And we're about to find out if it's going to be worthwhile or not. Casper to start. What a first point of the new year between these two.
Petch, did you bring a cut lunch? We could be here a while.
I won't mind being here a while if they hit the ball like that.
That was pretty clean.
Beautiful.
Petch, in soccer or English football, you have the away strip. Seem to be calling matches. We had Chile and Canada, red. Now we've got Croatia, Norway, red. I think we need an away strip. Distinguish the players.
100%.
Just looking at Borna Coric's bio, he certainly doesn't fear reputation. 11 wins over top 5 players, and as he was emerging, took care of Nadal, took care of Federer to win Halle. It's a good quality in a player, isn't it, that they can step up against the very best.
This is so good. Geometric beauty from Casper Ruud on that last forehand. That extra spin that he is able to impart on the ball allows him to access different parts of the court to other players, and at pace.
And you look at that, just a couple of rallies in this game alone. It's 22 degrees here in Sydney. It's very mild, pleasant conditions, best of 3 sets. You extrapolate that kind of tennis when you get down to Melbourne Park, nudging, 35 degrees potentially, and you just realise what these players have to put themselves through off court to maintain that level.
Lovely start from Casper Ruud. We'll take a little look at the win predictor that has understandably got Casper at that particular number, but as Wally correctly highlighted, Borna Coric does not fear reputation at all. He knows that matches take care between the lines, and he has done that effectively. That lovely run in Cincinnati, of course. He's got 3 titles to his name. The Croatian became the lowest ranked player to ever win a Masters because he was coming back from injury at 152 in the world. It was up until that point Roberto Carretero in Hamburg 96 who had been the lowest ranked player of a Masters 1000 event. And also, in doing so, became the 4th Croatian to win a Masters 1000 title. Goran Ivanisevic, Ivan Lubicic, and Marin Cilic, the others.
You mentioned to Eva, the great athletes coming out of Croatia. Norway, not too bad either.
No.
For a small country.
Doing very nicely.
Obviously, the winter sports are pretty spectacular, but tennis, golf, you name it, they're well represented.
Love 15.
Slices his backhand a little bit more than you think, Casper Ruud, in baseline exchanges. Changes up the rhythm of points very nicely with that shot. Coric, over the course of the years, has had one of the quickest backhands out there on the tour.
15-0.
In 2022, by the end of that particular season, when he had that success, he was actually the second fastest, equal with a number of players off the backhand wing. The fastest that year was Grigor Dimitrov. There's a little example of the pace that he can accelerate onto the ball off that two-hander.
30-15.
Serve was one of the big improvements through the course of 2022. And perhaps the elbow problem that he's been nursing for 6 to 7 months, one of the reasons why the second serve percentage in terms of points won last year dropped by 5%.
Guys, previously, before this match went on in the lounge, I saw Yanis, who's Coric's physiotherapist and strengthening coach, and a nice guy. He just happened to tell me how they've tweaked, Borna has been focusing on tweaking his serve a little bit and dropping that elbow, whereas before he was using a lot too much arm and putting pressure on that elbow. So he's been tweaking the service action and bringing that elbow down, more conventional serve, and hitting up into it. And has also changed the racket, so they're two things that are hoping will help that elbow.
Game. Team Croatia. 1 game on.
Just looking at it from front on, as Mark suggested, tucking that right elbow down below the back, not the abbreviated takeaway. Tremendous forces, of course, going through the elbow and the shoulder on the serve, and legs are a massive part of it. If the legs aren't incorporated, upper body has to do too much work. So obviously trying everything they can do to get their man playing injury-free. You look at the great baseball pitches, and obviously the arm's all important, but the fastball pitches, it's legs driving up out of the ground. Not something you see too often, is it, from Casper?
No.
That's an electronic call, right?
Yeah, football.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I know, Casper. Let me ask them which foot. Which foot, please, for the football?
Right foot over the centre serve.
Casper,
Right foot. Is it the back
Casper,
foot, I
the
think?
middle one.
It's not
Your
possible,
right
is it?
foot
Right foot.
was over
So
the
he's
centre
basically
service.
saying it's the back foot that was already crossed the centre line.
When you started, you...
Yeah, I'd love to see this if we got an opportunity in EVS to have a little look at
right
this.
foot is crossing the line in the middle.
That's not true, is it? He wasn't that close. No way.
Let's have a look.
No, you were not.
Here we go. Let's have a look. Well,
Well, your
no,
right
that
foot
does
was-
look like he's crossed
yeah,
it.
This is the
Okay.
issue.
Yeah, interesting.
That
Well, you can, but when you start, you need to be on. You cannot cross.
I stand corrected. Probably a little known rule out there in clubland. There's an imaginary line. That centre
Yeah.
tee continues on. You cannot cross that line.
Oh, how good has this shot making been in the opening couple of games?
You know, Petch, one of the things about the modern game that I'm just really impressed with, and we saw it with Agassi. Agassi sort of brought it to the table. When you have a passing shot, you have a target. You can be accurate. Without that target, it was always difficult in the past to be accurate. Nowadays, these players, they don't even need a target and they can strike the line. I mean, I find that amazing.
Let's second service. 30-15.
Does have value just to introduce that shot early into the match. Not necessarily have to play it that often, but the fact that Casper will have to guard against a potential drop shot there. Does just keep him a little bit more off balance.
There's the pace off the backhand you were talking about, just beaten for pace there. Pretty direct. Pretty good D from Casper to track down that first smash.
30-14.
This is a lovely brand and blend of tennis that Coric is bringing to this. Look at him there, just unloading both feet off the ground from well behind the baseline.
But how's that? Casper just throws the racket at the ball and finds the court. And you know why? Because he does it in practice. A learnt skill.
Pretty even off the forehand side to his backhand as well, and that has been the one area that was highlighted early on in his career, was going to be the forehand, the stroke production. There has been a few sort of changes, a few modifications with it. Doesn't get easy power off that particular wing.
Advantage, Team Norway.
Yeah, I mean, Borna has beautiful power on the back of in his strokes, especially the backhand side, but the forehand, he hits it a lot more with that open stance, and when he's got pace to deal with, he looks more comfortable. When he's got to create his own, that's where he tends to spray some forehands and hit some unforced errors.
There was more than a hint of promise that this was going to be a wonderful matchup between these two, and already, as you can see in the opening 3 games, that's exactly what we have, as Casper Ruud wants to check out this back foot position. Well, I guess what he was just wanting to get clarification on here, Wally, was, is it in front of the line or is on the line considered a footfall? And it's interesting to know that he doesn't know that.
I was a little surprised that his right foot was that far over. When he started, I couldn't believe it.
He moves it a lot. I didn't actually realize how much he moves it from there. That's quite a significant shift.
Well, he's up on his toe and then he drops his heel, so it's a foot length, isn't it? The length of his foot. I don't know what shoe size he is. So he's an 11 USA. And there he is. He's just questioning.
Yeah.
What part of that line?
So that's a footfall right there.
Yeah.
He's got to get it away from that. So it's so important for him to where he places his left foot, because everything else is going to fall into place and he doesn't want to think about it too much.
So he's got to extend that line, an imaginary line behind the baseline, and that's it. Good call, good electronic call, I like it.
One of the things you'd love to see, though, is is that being stuck up in the big screen to we talk about improvements in the sport, but you know, for the fans there, they're all looking, wondering what's just gone on here. And we can do a better job, I think, for the fans in the stadium of sticking that in the big screen and kind of having a little bit of an explanation going through as to what's going on.
Well, that is a rule that is not very often transgressed. I haven't seen that too often.
No.
Foot crossing the line.
And titles for Casper, they've all come at the ATP 250 range. That'll be something that he'll be hoping to break his duck in as he gets through 2024.
That is interesting, isn't it? Because then he's got that quantum leap to the 3 Grand Slam finals.
Yep.
And you look at him and he's fit and he's so disciplined, and 5 sets. That's where all of that is a huge benefit to him. But yeah, there's a bit of a gap with the 500s and the 1000s in the middle.
Guys, going back to what we spoke about with Borna's serve, and while we've had conversations regarding the serve and using the legs is just as important as the upper body to use it to go into the serve. And the funny thing is, Yanis was saying how Borna thinks that he knows that everyone talks about the legs being important, but he thought that the upper body did more of the work and he was focused more on that. And now they're looking to also use more legs into his serve.
Relentless from Ruud.
Punishing, isn't it? I mean, he was on the run there. I thought he was in trouble, but he just finds a way. He doesn't get to the edge and just play a chip. He gets out there, he hits it. He thinks the quality of his shot will get him back in the point, and it certainly did. Just on the serve, it's a bit unfair, but I got some video of Ben Shelton. He's got an amazing serve, an amazing arm, but the leg drive on that kid, up and over, it's enormous. Just a chain leading to a pretty awesome delivery.
Listen to some of the best servers. Listen to Andy Roddick talking about what's important about a serve, and as you say, all about the leg drive. Serves added a few kphs over the years. I've got some numbers from Coric back in 2017, and not much has changed off the ground. It hasn't found much extra pace off either backhand or forehand, but the serve used to be in the sort of 180s, but regularly up in the 190s now.
It's punishing. Casper turned one of those points back to his favour previously. That time, it was just too much firepower in the end from Coric, and you kind of wonder. For Casper, is that the way forward in this match? Does he want to just be relentlessly counter-punching from deep in the court? In practice, you see him trying to stand up and be a little more aggressive, but he's got to fight his natural tendencies in the match, try to dominate as many points as possible when returning.
I mean, that was as good a return as he could have hit there, Casper Ruud. He'll be disappointed that he couldn't capitalise on it. Coric doing an awesome job of turning the tables. Did a little bit of analysis of where Casper played in his previous round, inside the baseline a lot of time, and his average rally contact point. You could see him hugging the baseline again there and not retreating. As Coric gets himself out of a big bit of trouble very neatly. And I just wonder, Wally, whether if he stands there too often and he doesn't play where he normally plays, which is about a metre behind the baseline, whether those deeper balls he's going to be defending on a little too often.
Yeah, we saw him there playing the half volley. Wasn't quite comfortable, was he? Because, I mean, it's not a shot he's played a lot in his career. Normally he's deep in the court taking full-blooded swings at a dropping ball. So, yeah, it's a very different trajectory. I just want to touch on that. We'll let this point roll through. I always think, where's the game going? I look at the way these guys run at the back of the court, and I think, well, can you sustain a career like that? Because you'd be broke, you'd be busted. It's just so physically demanding. We've got Adrian Manarino playing later in the day. Now, this guy hugs the baseline on return and in general rally play. Really short swings, which have adapted to his court position. And I know the pace of play almost makes it seem impossible that you can do it, but Manarino's doing it pretty well. And I think, for me, if I'm working with a player, I want to explore that opportunity to just control the baseline, play on the rise, play the ball on the rise. And Petch, this is really going to blow your mind. You know how players play with longer rackets?
Yep.
Nicely done. This is where I'll probably need a bit of a brain check. I'm thinking slightly shorter.
Yeah.
Lou Hode used to cut his rackets down about half an inch because he just figured, I'm playing on grass, everything's coming short on the rise. He had much more time back in the day, obviously. But this is sort of how I think, because I watch these guys punish themselves in these grinding rallies, side to side to side to side, and I think, I don't know if you've got to walk at 45. And then I look at Manarino, and he's relevant in the modern game, sort of playing very up in the court. Oh, handled that pretty well.
He handled that incredibly well as he holds the love, having had a breakpoint opportunity in the previous one. Once again, these two putting on an absolute show for the fans here in Sydney. 3-2. Yeah, because I don't actually think there isn't actually, there's a ruling on length, right? You can't go more than 29 inches, but you can have it shorter.
So I say that too because players are so big.
Yeah.
If I look at Zverev, part of me when I watch that long limb forehand, I'm sort of thinking, it's hard for him to return close to the baseline because there's a lot going on. And I always looked at Milos Raonic and his forehand, and I'm sort of thinking, shorter racket, keep it simple. That's kind of where I'm coming from. To have a very simple... Do you remember James Blake's forehand?
Yeah.
I love that forehand.
Yeah.
Straight back, straight through, bang, and just rotated through it really fast. It was a cracker of the forehand. So that's sort of where I'm coming from. And you just take the ball on the rise.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I mean, I think tennis is, in general, we don't think out of the box enough in terms of the things that you can do. There's a whole host of things you can do to mess around with the racket and weight distribution and grip sizes and all of those things. I don't think your theory is without merit. I think it's got a lot of merit to it.
And if you start young,
yeah,
you evolve, you get used to it, you build. It's like playing, facing a fast bowler in cricket. You can't just come out and face it. Over all the years, you face faster and faster bowlers, and gradually you can face them. And it's a bit like that in tennis. If you start young, potentially you can do it.
And it's a total random number, 27 inches, isn't it, for a racket? Nobody, if you actually try and, it kind of came out of nowhere. It's almost the length from your shoulder to your elbow. It was the right size a lot of the time for a sword to be able to manipulate. Back in the middle. Nobody can really tell you why it is what it is.
Yeah,
so,
it's just traditionally that's what we've done.
Absolutely.
But if you have a look at some old footage of Lou Hode,
Yep.
have a look at and apparently Lou was a bit like Pete Sampras, very strong from wrist to forearm. And they used pretty heavy wooden rackets back in the day, but apparently he shaved it down slightly. Just wanted to take everything on the rise, keep it simple and short.
I love getting into the weeds with you. Right down there, right in there.
Yeah, it's where I dwell.
And thrive.
Just one more quick thing, guys. Sorry, I know you've been talking about the shorter thing, but shorter racket. But look at what happened in the golf world. With the drivers, they've gone longer in the drivers, and now they've gotten shorter in the drivers. Now McIlroy's using a much shorter driver than standard. So I think you might be ahead of your time, Wally.
Which was the golfer that went every club the same length? Was it Rahm?
Shambo.
No. DeChambeau. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so he was obviously... You want every swing to replicate the last one, so every club the same length.
A long time since a lot of players were becoming first-time winners of a Masters 1000 event since the advent of the Big Four, who pretty much locked up those particular tournaments while they were around, but throughout the course of 21 and 22. Suddenly there became a whole host of first-time winners of those very prestigious tournaments. Hubie Hurkacz really started the trend in Miami in 21, and then Tsitsipas picked one up in Monte Carlo, Cam Norrie in Indian Wells in 2021, and then Taylor Fritz won in the Californian desert in 22. Alcaraz picked up his first Masters 1000 in Miami in 22. Pablo Carreño Busta, who's been out with a significant elbow problem, won in Montreal. Coric became the 7th first-time winner in the last 15 events when he won that title in Ohio in Cincinnati in 2022. And since then, we've had Rublev winning in Monte Carlo, Rune, of course, in magnificent fashion in Paris. Not last year, of course, as we're in 2024, but in 2022, beating 5 top tenors along the way.
Tim Craig. 3 games off.
Beautiful hold from Coric. Shoulder problem I talked about in the warm-up before we had that lovely opportunity to talk to Eva. Kept him out of the game from Rotterdam in 2021 till he came back in Indian Wells 2022. He'd actually popped down to Australia even though he knew he couldn't play at the start of 2022, just to reconnect with the game, just to be around the players.
Slightly mishit, but he'll take it in any case. Did he have surgery? Has he had an intervention? Like, have they gone in and cleaned and
They did on the shoulder. I don't believe so on the elbow.
Right.
I think it's been something that he's just had to manage. Is my understanding. A very quick motion. That ball almost feels as though it's still on the way up. Done enough analysis of Casper's serve to know that it does have a little bit of a drop off its absolute apex, but those are difficult serves to read when they're as quick as this.
In real time, though, it doesn't look that way, does it?
No.
It looks as though he's hitting it on the up.
Let's for service.
Slow-mo, there it is. There. Oh, almost at the apex, isn't it?
40 love.
Pat Cash won Wimbledon, then decided that he would tinker with his ball toss and speed up the action in an attempt for more power. And I don't know if you remember, he opened up his stance a la Goran Ivanisevic to a degree. Cashy always looking for an edge. I just had to remind him, mate, you did win Wimbledon with the old serve.
A major title has been one match away 3 times for Casper Ruud. He'll desperately like to pick up one in 2024. It's been solid from both in the opening 7 games. There was another word last night that started with S, but it wasn't solid. It was spectacular. One of the great cities, Wally, to be in for New Year's Eve. Absolutely astonishing fireworks display last night. Not just the fireworks, but the drone show as well.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing, isn't it? I mean, it's the backdrop is so spectacular. Sydney Harbour is beautiful by day or by night. And I'm assuming, Pet, you're on one of those luxury boats, cruises, yachts underneath the harbour, sipping champagne.
I was dreaming
taking
about
it all in.
I was dreaming about it last night. Unfortunately, I had an early night, but having looked at some of the footage this morning when I woke up, I'm slightly regretting it, to be honest. I've got a bit of envy.
Yeah, I had to. Rafter came into town and he was on one of those boats. And I thought, you know, the Yamundi strawberry farm has come a long way.
Yeah.
There he is, just mixing with the
I
rich
didn't
and
realise
famous.
they let anyone on there. Had I known they were going to let anyone on there,
you would have
I would have gone down there. But wow,
incredible.
Yeah.
I love Pat. He sells himself as the everyman, but he's just living large. I mean, really. Lives up in Byron Bay with Chris Hemsworth.
Yeah.
I mean,
Who doesn't?
He just kills me.
Time.
Well, it's a lot of hard work out there, and Coric, who struggled a little bit in the heat, he said he's actually struggled with the time zone, which is why he's come down so early to Melbourne to try and get himself adjusted. But you can see, as Wally was saying, it's a nice day here, and it's just certainly not brutally hot. The roof's on, bit of humidity. It's just ticking up, 24 degrees. Flip, see Casper go back there for the second serve. What do you think?
Oh, look, we knew that that's where a lot of the time he's on the second serve. Sometimes he gets a little too deep, but I understand that he wants to give himself a little bit more time and maybe have a full swing at it. I mean, he's got so much rotation on that, especially on the forehand side with the racket head work. It's just beautiful shape on the ball. It's deep and it's tough to deal with.
Flip, we've had a bit of an emergency up here in the commentary booth. A pigeon has just flown in at top speed and flown right into the window of the commentary screen, and Petch is just ushering the bird out as we speak. Tense moments up here. We've had a brown snake on the court in Brisbane.
Now, I'm not too much into omens, but that doesn't feel too good there.
No. Homing pigeons, homing in on Petch. Jeez. That thing hit the window at speed, like a Coric backhand.
I'm sure it went for Petch's back of the head, right? Just missed.
Yeah.
Well, I always used to be everyone else's pigeon. I didn't need that. I didn't need it emphasised in here as well.
15. Game. Team operation.
I'm over again, Saga.
4 games over.
Just where we love to see sets of tennis that have been as good as this and has been as high quality as this, poised on the precipice.
You know, Borna's stepping in on that second serve, getting a lot closer. I wonder if it'll be more suitable, you know, just to stay back, give himself more time and have a full swing, because even if he's hitting hard into that backhand side, it doesn't really do much to pressure Casper. As solid as he is on both sides, especially that double-handed backhand.
Taking your advice, that's quite a retreat. He's back level with the Sydney side here.
Ready, 15.
I'm a Borna.
I think I might have said that a little bit too loud, boys. You heard me.
Yeah, coaching.
It's allowed these days.
Have you ever thought about that, Flip?
So good.
Gee. I was just kind of thinking about Borna, you know, the shoulder, the arm. I mean, he holds that racket like an axe, doesn't he? He's built, he's strong, and he crushes it. There's, you know, you sort of, Roger's probably the prime example, just how fluid he was in his shot making and the timing. But Borna is just, it's just industry and effort, isn't it? I just wonder whether that's led to tension throughout.
40-13.
Look, he absolutely loves hard work. There's no question about that, the Croatian. And he's also somebody, a bit like yourself, Wally, that's really embraced boxing as part of his training.
Well, not one to be messed with. He looks pretty strong.
And there's the downside from backing up a little bit, because if it does allow Casper more opportunity to use the off-pace kicker and get his forehand into play as his first shot after his serve. And he wraps up the 9th game in superb style, 5-4.
Who's a fluid shot maker? I'm thinking of Xavier Malisse. You know, they just had that ability. That's that highlighting that point that you just discussed. Heavy kicking serve. And Borna doesn't, he's not very angular. He's quite linear on the backhand, isn't he? So he hits a dropping ball, he hits it pretty flat. He's not going to get that big high arc, say, that Casper does. So kind of sits up pretty nicely for the next shot. But yeah, I just wonder when someone, I've spent a bit of time on court with Alex Vukic. He's not dissimilar. He's actually of Croatian descent. And Alex is a big, strong boy who just, yeah, he holds the racket tight and he just crushes it. He just seems to put tremendous forces through the body. Had a little bit of shoulder problem himself of late.
Time.
Yeah, a lot of it's going to come down to spin rates as well on that backhand, as you say. I mean, he's about, well, he's 600 RPMs sort of flatter than Ruud's backhand. Ruud has that lovely ability off both wings to be able to short access, round around the service line, get the ball off the court. But as you say, Borna doesn't have that, except he likes to take it pretty quickly line, where he's going to flirt with the top of the tape. Interesting to see what Casper does here on the return. Just couldn't get the length on the return that he was looking for off the block.
If Borna can add that shot to his repertoire as far as taking the ball a little bit early on the forehand side, not being so open, and with the power that he has, along with that backhand and his movement, man, it's a good combination.
Yeah, that backhand, that looks like a hard quarters backhand, not a clay quarters backhand, doesn't it?
Spent his formative years actually in North London, training with Ryan Jones.
Okay.
He's worked with a number of players like Carl Edmond over the years, Jack Draper, who's doing well. So him and Donna actually spent a fair bit of time over there.
And I'm assuming that's hard court indoors, supreme carpet.
30-15.
Yeah, I mean, occasionally, I mean, that Mediterranean climate that we have in North London, I mean, obviously you can play outside.
Yeah. What do you have? Shale?
Yes.
Asphalt?
Shale, bubble, and anything that can keep you out of the elements. You're absolutely right. Yeah,
It's a mecca for training, isn't it? Tennis training, North London.
How good was that forehand?
Well, you like to think, a little like Rafa, that you're so quick to get around the forehand that you can come back at it, but he couldn't. He was still falling away. Let's have a look at this. This will show us pretty well. He's actually falling away onto that left foot, but still has the balance and the skill. You can see that, just falling away to the alley, but still manages to nail it accurately. That is a good skill. So many players would have dragged that wide with them.
40-13.
Guessed on the return there, interestingly, Casper. Gave the one out wide.
Just thinking of all that time lost on tour for Borna Coric. I mean, he was 12 in the world.
Yep.
A lot of money slipped by. Your career is pretty short. 10 years, if you get 10 years, that's great. And to lose a couple at the height of your powers, got to hurt.
Once again, Casper retreats. And he retreated because that's exactly what he wants, to be have the extra little bit of time to get his forehand in off the return, and it's worked out very nicely for the Norwegian. Can Coric save this set point? That is one of the best ends to a set that you will see in the Australian summer.
6 games to 4.
Pedge, take note. Let's see to close out a set. Presence of mind, execution, and in the end, I mean, he didn't want that volley. He probably went the wrong way on the approach, but what a volley. Good feel in the hands, no tension there.
That was absolutely world class. Everything about it. The return of serve was absolutely pinpoint. And we'll roll through this. And, well, he may not have had a higher first serve percentage in, but he's got a much better number. And that is something that Casper is going to be delighted about. But on the flip side of that, Borna is going to have to find some solutions to make more inroads when Casper makes a first serve.
Yeah, the numbers are pretty clean from both players. And coming to the net, they've both been very successful, obviously coming in on their own terms, and you just look at the unforced errors. 10 for Borna, 4 for Casper, just not giving him any breathing space. Isn't it amazing, the good players, the great players, they have a little switch.
Yep.
Not afraid to play expansive tennis on the big points, and then they get the execution just right. That was not an easy volley. Dipping. Most people prefer a backhand to a forehand volley, but there it was.
That's a hell of a last point. And you know what? After that volley, I was waiting for Pedge to tell us that Casper spent some time in London for some training after that volley.
In North London.
He was even more north than London. He was back home in Norway training, getting ready for the Australian summer.
Time.
And of course, he was one of those players that moved, but he moved south to Rafa's academy, where he has built this foundation of a game that has become one of the best in the world.
It's a good story, isn't it? Or it's quite interesting, isn't it, how travelled young tennis players are.
Yep.
They say they're from Russia, but half the time they grew up in Spain or wherever the academy might have been. Maybe it was Miami, Florida, down at Bollettieri.
Second set.
You've got to be a real nomad to be good at this game.
Team Norway to serve. Out. 15 love.
Alex Stober, centre of screen there, slightly green. Very, very well respected trainer on the WTA and ATP tour. Started off life as an ATP trainer, but he was so good that the great players picked him up and have used him personally. Now Casper Ruud is using him, and that is a good appointment.
Fifteen 13.
Bit of a loose game here from Casper Ruud, but credit to Coric to put the adversity of the opening set very quickly behind him.
Guys, I thought he'd lost an opportunity there, but didn't step into one of those forehands and just rolled it back into play. But ended up getting that point at the end. That was a good work. Would like to see him step into a couple of these shots in this set, put a little bit more pressure on Casper.
Let's the service.
Of course, it's easier said than done with so much weight in the ball like Casper has. It's so smart the way he'll flatten it out and then he'll get under it and really give it some height. He mixes up the ball so well and changes direction so easily as well. It's very impressive to watch.
Yeah, the normal camera angle that we show a match doesn't really show that. Sometimes you get a low camera angle looking up, and the subtleties, changes of pace and spin is important.
Great recovery forehand from Ruud.
Deuce.
when you're defending, it's not exactly where you hit it all the time, but it's how hard you hit it there. And he just flipped it up, as Mark was just talking about. He flipped it up just that little bit higher, bought some time, and he's back in it. He's looking good, Casper, isn't he? He's barely put a foot wrong this morning.
Team Norway.
Or this afternoon, I should say. 20-3 here in Sydney.
Yeah, Team Norway. First game.
Well, there was an opportunity perhaps on the second break point for Coric to come in behind the backhand down the line, and maybe that wouldn't have allowed Casper to escape the situation that he found himself in. But he has, and he will be buoyed with even more optimism now. Again, you talk about sort of James Blake's short forehand, but I mean, obviously that's been one of the things about tennis over the last few sort of decade or so. Lighter rackets coming in, just that easy kind of lag in the wrist that you can see from that last replay from Casper generating the racket head speed. You don't really want the racket breaking the back of the body. You want to keep it in line, don't you, Wal?
Yeah, and I guess the strings too, you know, the poly strings, string them pretty loose, tends to just throw the ball up pretty high straight out of the racket.
The greatest change that ever came into tennis, of course, was the bigger racket heads, the greater sort of size of racket face that you could throw fast at the ball. That's where the main spin came from.
Yeah, and then you get the wider string pattern. Everything has added to it. And throw in the poly. It's been a real evolution.
Got to hit such a good shot to beat somebody that moves as well as Ruud. To hit a winner from there doesn't seem like the wisest choice.
Virtually hitting a cross-court backhand from where he was. He was in the doubles alley, hitting it down the line. So with every revolution, it's actually getting closer and closer to Casper. I think that was a bit out of desperation. I just was kind of feeling that Borna's got to be a bit careful here because he's in a mood. He's going to fight hard to stay level early in the second here.
Once again, this has started working out nicely for Casper Ruud, going back a little bit more on the return on the second serve. Coric trying to counter it with the off-pace second serve and volley.
And how often do you see that when somebody goes to serve and volley, they throw it way out into the court and they just lose shape, lose the shape of their body, and they lose shape on the serve. You've essentially got to serve, finish your serve, go.
Look at the way that Casper holds his racket. So he's got both hands there. You can see that he slides it up the racket there. I mean, I know it's such a small thing, but he actually, often you'll see him stand there and he'll have his left hand up the racket throat, and then he has to slide it down to hit that backhand return, deciding on what he wants. I always feel like he just needs to sit with his left hand on the grip every single time so that he doesn't have to think about even sliding his hand down. Just hit it, stand like that the whole thing. You can see, starts there, then moves up.
Yeah, that is pretty strange, isn't it? Then he's got to go back down again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's one of the advantages of having two-handed backhand for that reason.
Yeah.
30.
Bravo, Borna.
It's the only reason you'd have it up the throat there is almost so that you've decided that you're going to block it as a one-handed backhand. As you can see, he starts on that at that grip there, then he puts it up, and you would have it there so you could chisel it back. It makes no sense to then slide it back down again.
That was the second serve return, that final shot there, where he had a lot of time and he just held it as 2. It's almost like on that first serve, he's undecided. Maybe he thinks he's going to have to throw it into a chip or a block.
40-13.
Yeah, but I'm with you. You'd think that would be the great advantage of 2 hands. Then just, if you have to block, take the left hand away. Andre, for sure, was...
Yeah. What's happened here?
The ball ricocheted off the back of the court and hit him where it hurts.
No, did it?
Yes.
No, jeez. You can be unlucky, can't you? Oh, well.
Yeah, Casper.
Just going to have to take a moment here just to start feeling a little bit better.
I mean, what are the chances? Casper probably wasn't even aware what happened.
No. Bad ricochet.
Let's for service.
Odi malo bliže na ovoj strani. Čuvaj desno.
$30-15.
That was an impressive point. I love the way I'm coming forward off that short ball, but look at that. He saw that he was floating, and to have that mindset to come forward and get it before he drops below the net, that was good play there from Casper. Showing some good sense around the net.
Let's for service. Team Norway leads.
Ruud continues his dominance. 2-1, second set.
It's a very calm team corner, Team Norway, isn't it? Italians are a little more energetic, a little more extrovert. You know, Petch, they're amongst the happiest people in the world up there.
Scandinavians.
World Happiness Index. Finland, Norway,
I think Finland wins it every year, don't they?
I think England and Australia are pretty similar. So we're both as happy as each other, Petch.
Scandinavia have produced some great champions over the years. He was looking to become the 6th Scandinavian Grand Slam champion when he was in the final of the French Open when he met Rafa for the very first time. It's been a while since there was a first meeting between two players in a Grand Slam final when he met in the French Open in 2022. Djokovic against Tsonga, 2008 down in Melbourne was the last time that had been a first meeting. But Sven Davidson, of course, won Roland Garros in 57. And then we had the likes of Bjorn Borg, Mats Wilander, Stefan Edberg, and Thomas Johansson, the 2002 Australian Open champion from that part of the world.
Enquist, missing by a whisker, the Australian Open. Losing to Kafelnikov, I think it was. Yeah, the Swedes certainly had
Magnus
run for a
Norman,
while, didn't they?
finalist of the French Open as well. Curious to see what Coric does here in terms of turning it around. Is he able to turn it around with something else that he can do, or is he hoping for a little bit of a drop from the other side of the net?
Well, the other part of it too is, you know, you haven't played a lot of matches, don't have that real volume over a period of years, really, for Borna Coric. And you're into an hour and 8 of really concentrating against one of the best players in the world, and you just have to maintain. First match of the season, obviously, for both men, but there's a bit more in the bank for Casper.
Serious left leg strength there from Coric to be able to hold his position, to be able to control it down the line. The sort of finesse that Mark Philippous has had holding his glass of red wine to celebrate the new year coming in. Delicate.
15-all.
The defense was delicate too, wasn't it? Just floated it to within inches of the baseline. Best players in the world are the best defenders.
It's always interesting watching people return. You look at Casper's sort of struggles on the forehand side where he's going to block. Obviously, the one thing we haven't seen from Coric is a first serves into the forehand side, knowing the chips coming, serving and volleying behind that. That would be a nice little tool to have in the toolbox to be able to force Casper to have to try and drive through forehand returns. Oh, that was a firework.
Changing the line of flight on the full run. You can see here he's looking to defend the backhand. Cross-court forehand coming in. He just directs it line. Almost sliding around the outside of the ball, hooking it line. Brilliant shot.
Oh, this is astonishingly good.
Well, that was like Flip with his second glass of red, just getting even more delicate as the evening goes on. That was brilliant.
I mean, that was so impressive. The last one, you know, not too much pace, but hitting that drop shot and getting that touch off that forehand from Coric. My goodness.
That would not have knocked the top off a souffle. That landed so softly. Ruud unplayable at the moment.
Let's for service.
Just bookmark that moment. That serve was going wide. Clip the net's gone back in. He gets another chance to reload. And he uses that opportunity very well.
Should we have Let's? Should we play Let's?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We'll never understand why there has been that growing consensus to try and add more luck into what is a skill-based sport.
But if the net's tight enough, I think it actually takes the advantage away from the server, because you don't get, he would get that a pop fly and he could just crack it. And the serve is so dominant.
Best sport in the world, and at the moment, one of the best players in the world is playing like it.
Well, Flip just said before about his willingness to take time away. Could have let this ball come to him, but absolutely charges it. And look where he finishes, 2 or 3 steps past the point of contact, so there was no way he wasn't going to fully commit to that volley. Reminding me a bit of a flying John Fitzgerald there on the forehand volley. Fitzy, of course, was a bit of a hot dog. He would have tried a little angle or something.
Bit of an oxymoron, isn't it? Flying Fitzgerald?
Yeah.
Yes.
Petch, you obviously call a lot of matches over the course of the year. I'm just watching Casper today. Is he more in and out of the court than usual? Like, is he pulling back but then being more determined to try to hold baseline, retreating when necessary? Would you think?
Yeah, it feels a little bit. We'll just stick a pin in that, Phil, for it. That's a classic case there of what I was just saying about serving and volleying, to have that in your arsenal for Borna Coric, to force Ruud to have to try and hit that forehand return, because he knows he's not going to serve and volley. So it's very comfortable for Casper to hold the grip that he wants to be able to nudge that deep when it came to the forehand. Got to make your opponent look at you. You've got to just get them out of their rhythm somehow on those big, important moments. And he is in all sorts of trouble now.
Serves and volleys out of desperation on a second serve. And that was never going to end particularly well. But I would say, if you said to Borna, you know, what about that idea, you know, the serve volley to the forehand, not really incorporating it, you're probably not really practicing it. And he'd probably say, look, I got to 12 in the world doing it this way. Players are unbelievably stubborn sometimes, I think, particularly as they progress in their career. And, you know, I agree with you. I think those small changes can make big differences. But, you know, I know Flip, of course, worked with, you know, Tsitsipas, and that was obviously one thing they were trying to incorporate. But some players don't embrace it. They don't embrace change.
Here's a quick question for you, Flip. We're going to see Steph potentially play here. I've always been interested in the return of serve for him. And we talked about a little bit about Casper's today. When I watch Steph return, he returns with a forehand grip on his forehand, and obviously the backhand is it's a good return when he swings through it. But he does get caught a little bit on that side. Is there any, would there be, in your opinion, any advantage with him starting with a backhand grip and moving to the forehand to hit the return?
You know, it's so difficult because you don't want to make too many changes, especially like Wally said, they can get frustrated if they kind of don't get it within the first 2-3 shots. So, and then also too, it's not like you know, we had the opportunity where we had a couple of weeks off. You can really work on something. You know, I got a chance to see him a few days before going to a Grand Slam or the big events, and you can't touch on those kind of things. You know, it's more about just getting him ready and just ironing out a couple of things here and there. But the biggest thing for me, what I felt like for him to work on, is just turning the shoulders and blocking that backhand back, whether it's a chip or even if you want to come over it, but blocking it back instead of taking that full swing. If you do, like you said, stay back. But on the first serve, you just got to turn the shoulders and block it back and start off the point.
Casper Ruud absolutely lighting it up. He is in rude health.
He wanted to take it on, didn't he? He's growing in confidence in this match. Like these backhands, it's just an absolute rip on the rise. Hit the ball on the rise, plenty of energy in the ball. Take time away from your opponent. That's great tennis. My eyes are bad. Is that his... That's not his father, is it? That is his father. Why does he look so young? He dyed his hair?
Because he hasn't had the lives we've had. That's why. He turns left when he gets on the airplane, not right, Wally. I tell you what, his son is doing everything right out here. A set and 4-1.
No wonder the Norwegians are so happy. They're so damn good looking.
Yeah. He's not a rock star in terms of his kind of demeanour, but he's become a bit of a rock star there quietly in Norway. I've got a few good Norwegian friends in London, and they're very excited about watching him play. They've really gravitated towards tennis because of the way that he is. They're also people that love his style, the way he goes about his tennis. They don't need all the flash, and he's certainly getting a lot of attention in the right places.
Well, they're a very socialist country, aren't they? Mm-hmm. You know, you don't necessarily, you know, they raise the bottom up to the middle and they bring the top back down to the middle. So I don't think they would appreciate that sort of flashiness, if you like, or extravagance. They like a little bit of humility in their sports stars. And he certainly embodies that, Casper, doesn't he?
It's interesting what Flip's been saying about not having enough time, isn't it? It's kind of the one fun thing about coaching is having time. It's actually being able to trial and error. Sometimes you think things are going to work and they don't. Sometimes you think something isn't going to work and suddenly it comes out perfectly. I watch Borna on the forehand side and I feel as though he comes out of the hit pretty quickly with his left arm. He's got nice shoulder rotation, but you watch Borna, you kind of feel like he comes out a little bit too quickly and he hits it with the front of his shoulder, with his right shoulder, and he doesn't generate easy power like if you watch Novak's forehand and the way that he's so fluid through it. Plus he's quite flat on his return position. Feel as though he has to jump laterally rather than cut the angles off, and I'd love to have a bit of time with players like that to just try that stuff.
Petch, I couldn't agree with more, but I think a very important part in that is you've got to have that player who's willing to try something different and willing to try it out during a match. Is a very difficult thing to do. I mean, both boys just hitting the ball so hard, and it's been incredibly impressive. But you know, as strong as Borna is, he's just not making Casper kind of, making him uncomfortable with anything right now. He just looks so in control, and he's getting the ball back in the middle when he wants and ripping it, stepping in and ripping it down the line when he wants to. He does not look at all phased.
And Flip, we're looking from up high here too. It doesn't look like the shape of his shots change much either. The pace doesn't change much, nor does the shape from Borna.
Not at all. It is pretty flat, especially on that backhand side. There's very little room for error. Just a little flat over the net and not far from that baseline.
Sounds like we're being negative though, but Borna Coric stays healthy, he'll beat a lot of people.
Yep.
He will beat a lot of people. I guess we're just measuring him against Casper Ruud, who was not so long ago #2 in the world. A match away from #1.
Yeah, and listen, I mean, hopefully people understand that, you're talking about it in terms of how is he going to get himself back close to being in the top 10. He was 12, as you say, back in 2018. And when you look at things, and it's not mentality, he's one of the hardest workers out there. Arguably, you can say some of the injuries he's had is because he's almost wanted it too much. But you watch his backhand, and it's a lot of hard work goes into it. He doesn't finish up over the shoulders. Actually did the last two, and if you stop going through the shot, it becomes quite jabby and it becomes quite flat. You can hit it hard, but you don't get that shape that both you and Flip have been talking about, Wally, in terms of getting up the back of the ball. That's a much better looking shot.
Longer, freer swing.
Yeah. And he definitely got the ability to go from low to high a little bit more on that backhand. He is so good on the perimeter of the court, Casper Ruud.
Tough to approach with a cross-court shot. I mean, it wasn't a bad shot at all, but you approach cross-court, you've got to cover line. Vulnerable there to the little flip cross-court. You could see he's leaning to cover line. I mean, a bit of a rule of thumb, approach line, cover line, make them pass across your body, one step forward and cut off the angle, but he did have an open court. He backed himself.
Ball change, please. New ball.
And he's been willing to make those little adjustments on the return of serve that have worked out very nicely. He's had quantity of returns in this match, Casper Ruud, but he's also had quality as well.
Petch, that's exactly that, opening up that forehand that Borna missed. Like you said, opening up too soon with his upper body, and a lot of the time he does have that slight miss hit on the forehand side, or hitting up on the ball instead of through. But yeah, those things that we're speaking about is because Borna is such a good player and incredible athlete. Those little changes could mean the difference between him getting back in that top 20 for him, even close to that top 10. Definitely not critiquing him. It's just he's a hell of a player, but they're little things that I think could make a big difference in his game.
Love 15.
I look at tennis matches, a bit like whatever distance you want to call it, 5K, 10K, 20K run. Two players set off on the run. If you haven't had a lot of matches, you've had some injuries, you're low in confidence, at some point someone's going to maintain a pace that you can't keep up with. And that's been the case today. Coric did a good job early of hanging tough,
yep.
You know, scoreboard pressure. But he played those brilliant 2 points to close out the first set, did Casper, and then he just kept running. Borna has not been able to keep pace.
Ready 15.
Now he's just popping cannons. 208 down the tee. Second consecutive ace. Seven for the match for Casper.
In terms of first serve points won in this match, he's sitting at 87%, and that would put him in the top 10 in terms of matches played on a hard court. In terms of success with his first serve, it has been dominant, and it's been perfect. 2 match points. Team Croatia won the first match of the day. It is Team Norway who take the second one, and once again here at this magnificent United Cup, we have a live mixed doubles for you. Casper Ruud was absolutely immaculate.
Go Norway, he certainly did. He was on fire from the back end of that first set, absolutely unplayable. The movement was impeccable, arrived on balance, defended when he had to, had touch, showed us some unbelievable feel on the forehand volley. Yeah. And also the drop shot, the forehand drop shot working beautifully. I mean, pretty faultless really from Casper. He's looking good. He's looking a little closer to number 2 in the world than he is 11. Really good form coming into this Australian summer, obviously representing Norway with great pride, and he's had to play with his back to the wall. He hasn't, he's been down love 1 on both occasions, and we saw him get involved in the mixed in the first match, so we'll see whether that's the case here.
And Casper is with Mark.
Casper, that was an incredible, impressive win against a very tough opponent, especially knowing that your team is down 1 love. You must be very happy and be pleased with the way you played.
Yeah, thank you. It was another great singles match for me here in Sydney, so very happy to start the year 1st of January in this way. You know, Happy New Year to everyone. We had a great time in Sydney last night, so I hope everyone else had a good time, and just motivated to start a new year fresh, and I feel ready.
You certainly look ready. I feel like that match was a step above the first one, as impressive as that was. You know, it wasn't going to be an easy match, but are you making a slight adjustment? It feels like you're stepping closer to the baseline. And definitely, we know how tough you are and solid you are from the back, but definitely looks like you're looking to take advantage and get into the court a little bit more. Is that something that you're focusing on?
Yeah, I'm trying my best. You know, I'm still, somewhat of a baseline player. I'm never going to be the guy who storms the net and is all over the net, but I'm trying to develop somehow to come a little bit more into the court. The last 4 or 5 months or so, since or 3-4 months since the US Open this year, I've been trying certain new things in my game, and it's working. It's slowly, steady, going the right way. I mean, I can't change my game overnight, but I'm trying my best in practice and sometimes in the matches to step a little bit more in. Some wild volley errors you will see, like I had one today, but I had a couple of good ones as well. So I think in general it's a smart move to try to be more aggressive, and with all these new great players coming up, they're playing so aggressive. So in order to kind of fight with them and be able to hang out with them, I'm going to need to change a little bit in my game.
Well, that certainly was impressive, and good luck with the rest of the year. But again, congrats on making a 1-all into live mixed doubles. Are we going to see you out in the court again?
Yes, I'm coming in 20-25 minutes again. I'll be back and playing mixed doubles. So hoping to get a win for Team Norway. That would be really fun for us.
Fantastic. Good luck and congratulations on a great match.
Flip, absolutely correct. It was a great match. And Ellie's mum and girlfriend, and well, Casper is going to be feeling very good right now. There is absolutely no rust. He looks absolutely fresh, and it is one apiece, as we say, here in Sydney. Donna Vekic in a epic win in 3 sets, putting her country 1 up, but Casper Ruud has kind of put in the performance that starts making him become very much a part of the conversation, not just here at the United Cup, but as we, of course, start drifting our thoughts towards Melbourne as well.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. He looks great, moving very freely. Huge workload in 2022, probably overcooked his off-season in terms of exhibitions, and he just kept playing, and I think he's got the balance right for 2024. He looks fresh, he's got imagination, and he's just timing the ball beautifully.
Let's roll through the credits. As I said, that was one of the best performances that he's had in terms of first serve points won. He has had a few matches where he's come off the court with over 90% of his first serve points won on the hard courts, but that was excellent. And there will be a little bit of homework for Borna to do, Wally, because that was just their second meeting, and if he wants to get back in the world's top 20, Borna, he's going to have to try and navigate his way past players like Casper.
And Casper was so good and moved so well. He actually made Borna look a little one-dimensional. It wasn't as though Borna could go to plan B as that second set was slipping away. But look, great to see him back. We hope all those shoulder and elbow injuries are a thing of the past, and we can see the best of him going forward. And probably a bit too much to expect that he'd be absolutely on fire at this stage of his comeback.
Well, the highlights should take a while because it was something a little special, but what won't take a while is to see the next 4 players back out here, still live and very much in the balance between Norway and Croatia.